goals that, you know, they keep on reoccurring. And they're going to keep on reoccurring because you always want to keep that out there. And then there are some new things, and you always should be putting something new out there, which is, for example, in my case, really learned about teaching online.
Yeah.
Never done that before, and I had some real hesitations about it. But I see that. I have to understand that because I know that we live, and our kids live, in a world where the way in which they get information, the way in which they communicate, and the way in which they interact with one another is oftentimes very different from the experiences that we all had. And so you have to think about how does that get translated into into schools. That's why the technology piece is so important. The global education, you know, we have the tendency to think that we're doing it right here. Well, we know that there are a lot of places in the world where they're also think that they're doing it right. And we have to teach our students how to interact and how to be part of a much larger world than perhaps any one of us experienced when we were growing up. So that's why the global education piece, and I have to do everything that I can to understand what is happening, not just in the neighboring school committee, what's happening at the state level, what's happening nationally, to be able to bring that back to New York. It's also important, I know Carl stepped out, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I worked with a great team. And it's so invigorating because people bring a lot of great ideas to the table, and part of my job is to continually encourage them to do the best that they can. And so you see a lot of goals in here are attributing the success of those goals is attributed to the hard work of many other people. And my job is really making sure that they continue to move forward in their own work, their own schools, their own programs. So there are some priorities. I hope that we can get the strategic plan done because it's important to think about the future. We just heard tonight about kind of finishing one phase of the elementary school project. We have work to do, and I'm encouraged with the preliminary discussions happening with MSBA. We need to make some hard decisions about what that next project is going to be. And it could take another 10 or 12 or 18 years, but that's okay. We need to keep on moving forward. I am concerned about not just the turnover. I don't think there's a turnover in staff because people are dissatisfied with work here. I think it's a much broader question. I spoke about that earlier about this readiness project. I think there's a great turnover in terms of young adults who are thinking about whether or not working in education, and not just in teaching, but in being principal, being curriculum, being special education director, being superintendent. There were over 60 new superintendents coming in, and so school committees have to look at this in a very different way. So I think in general we have to have a new way of doing business. Special education is going to continue to dominate our discussion, and I would say more inclusion. It isn't just special education. It's how can we make sure our schools are accessible to all students. And I think this is an area that we've done a pretty good job at. Communication. As I said, with technology, people are expecting, parents, students are expecting information to be readily available, accessible. And if they can't, they're not going to count on schools always to provide that information. They're going to look elsewhere for it. So we're going to have to do a better job at finding out ways to communicate, not just with parents, but with students, but with the broader community. It's a concern, because you were talking about the readiness project, about this group working on this aspect, and another group working on something else. How how do they interact? How do you bring those groups together? Policy, you know, that is a big area, and I hope that our policy subcommittee can schedule some definite meetings this year and get some work done.
Well, every afternoon from 12 to 3. So, other than
You're
Wednesdays.
gonna come in every day?
Hmm?
You're gonna come in every day?
No. No, not unless there's somewhere I can hang out.
So those are some of the areas.
Yep.
Nice. Any other questions or comments? Okay, bills and payrolls, I think, Cliff, I think we need one more signature on some of those.
What night is that goal setting? You said
It's
6?
next Monday,
Next
6
Monday.
o'clock. Minutes, I had a few minor. I believe, Nicole, I hate to call you out like
I
this.
was
But I believe
late.
I have you
I
guys
arrived-
arriving at 7:20, is that right, you think, 7:20?
7:20, 7:25, somewhere
Okay,
around there.
so Nicole arrived around 7:20
Oh,
for the
okay.
Open session minutes of August 25th. And then on all the votes we took on the minutes, I think it was 4-0, because there were 5 of us here and Jerry
Jerry
abstained. So each one of those should be 4-0 instead
Oh,
of
okay.
3-0. And then I think I have one more minor one. On page 4, under budget planning, the last sentence, it's finance committee, not financial committee. That's on page 4, under budget planning, number 3. The last sentence, it says the financial committee. It should be the finance committee. Minor. And that's all I have. Anybody have anything else?
No, all I thought was the medium weight.
Well, that's pretty good of you to call yourself out.
Fess up,
Yeah.
yes.
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of August 25th?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mrs. Baca. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then we have executive session minutes for the same night. I didn't have any issues there. I don't know if anybody else did.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Baca, second by Mrs. Davis to approve the August 25th executive session meetings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, budget update, we've done. Staffing, Dave, I think you just provided us a list of all
There's a
the
long
new
list.
teachers.
I won't read them all, but I'd like them entered into the record. And we are fully staffed. If there is, unless you have any questions on the teaching. I
So
do-
we're fully staffed on the teaching
We are,
positions?
yes. But something that did not make it into your memo, but we need to appoint a school doctor. That's actually a school committee
Oh, yeah.
function to appoint that. And I'd like to recommend Dr. Lori Ritz to be the school physician for North Reading.
Did our previous doctor not, was he up for the post or not willing to?
We've actually been serving for half of the year without, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you moved.
he moved, yeah.
Lori Woods from North Reading, the
Yes.
area?
Yeah, I'm gonna, Dr. Witz and her family live in North Reading, and they've been very active. Lori has served on the secondary school building
Okay.
committee. Husband
That's
Jeff
what I was wondering.
has served on the elementary school building committee and a number of other activities here in the community, and their children attend our schools. But from an educational standpoint, Dr. Witz received her undergraduate in chemistry, cum laude, from Holy Cross, and went on to University of Massachusetts Medical School, and did internship and residency at the Pittsburgh Medical Center,
subcommittee updates. I think the only subcommittee update we have is the financial, why do I keep forgetting the name of that? Financial
Finance Advisory Committee.
Financial Advisory Committee. Mr. Bowers?
Oh, it is.
Fiscal Advisory Committee.
Okay, fiscal advisory.
The meeting for last Tuesday was canceled
Oh.
virtual tomorrow, so there's been no meeting
Okay.
since our last meeting.
Okay.
There have been some reports that have, draft reports that have been submitted, so I think that we're gonna actually see some sort of activity, kind of conclusionary activity on some of the reports anyway.
I know we requested at the finance planning team meeting, and I'm sure you'll request that any reports that are planned to be made at town meeting in October, the school committee would obviously want to review those in advance, especially the relevant parts to the school committee.
And for last week's meeting, I was told in advance that there was an interest in discussing school contracts, and I felt that was an area that I really couldn't participate very well, so we had a little bit of a round robin trying to find somebody else to go, and Jerry has said that he would be at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, that's great, since he was on the negotiating team, and he's got a lot of in-depth knowledge of the contract, so he's perfect. And he also has done a lot of research on surrounding towns. Perfect. Great. David, if you could, I'm assuming you're going to get athletic subcommittee and all the other
Yes.
health and well-being, or whatever.
Yeah,
that
youth
was.
at risk.
Youth at risk, health and well-being.
Health and-
Same
yeah,
thing.
same thing.
And policy subcommittee. Administrative reports, I think we've gone over Young Americans, and then the enrollment we've discussed, and then the SAT and ACT scores. I think we also discussed those. The SAT score is nice improvement at the high school in all areas, I believe. So that's good news. It's also interesting, the SATs, the colleges have now changed their policy in that the student can pick the score they want to send. In the past, every test you took went to every college you applied to. So the speculation is that if a kid takes the test and thinks they can do a little better, they'll maybe keep taking the test because they're not going to get penalized if they do worse, because they get to pick the test results they send to the school. Yeah.
Some schools are moving away from
Yeah, they're out, yeah.
CTs. Is this the first year that we've had prep offered to high school students, how the curriculum?
It's the first year we had that class, this is the second year. Last year was the first year we had that class.
So it'll be interesting to watch
Right.
and see
Right.
how they,
Yeah.
which was great, because now all kids can take advantage of it, just not just the families that can afford it.
And then correspondence, David, did you want to talk at all about the NEASC letter, or?
No, I think we've submitted, or Mr. Bernard submitted the 5-year report on the high school accreditation, and it's been accepted conditionally. There were a couple of questions about it, issues